In the earliest times, when the world had not yet learned to hold its shape, when there were no clear boundaries between realms and no laws to anchor reality, there existed something subtle and almost unnoticed: Oblivion. It was neither good nor evil, it simply was. Everything that was not held in memory slowly dissolved into it, and from that oblivion, one day Eilar was born. No one witnessed his birth, no one knew who he had been before. Perhaps he had once been a human, forgotten by all, perhaps a god whose name had faded, or maybe he was the very first thought that vanished the moment it appeared. When Eilar first became aware, there was nothing around him but endless mist. Yet within that mist echoed voices, fragments of sentences, laughter, cries, whispers. He reached out his hand, and a word appeared in his palm, simple, warm. He did not know its meaning, but he felt it mattered. That was how he understood his nature. He began to collect, at first by accident, then with purpose. Every forgotten word, every erased memory, every name no longer spoken, all found their way to him. Over time, a library began to form around him. It was not built like ordinary structures, it grew. Shelves emerged from emptiness, and books appeared upon them. Some were thin, almost transparent, containing fleeting thoughts. Others were heavy, ancient, filled with entire lives. Eilar became their keeper. He learned to read these books, though they held no letters. They were written in feelings. By touching a page, he could live another's life, see through another's eyes, feel another's pain or joy. And the more he gathered, the less he remembered about himself. That was the price. Centuries passed. Worlds took shape. Gods, humans, and monsters appeared. Stories were born, legends, wars, love, and with them, Oblivion grew stronger. Eilar no longer just collected, he began to observe. Sometimes he left his library. He could appear anywhere, in a quiet village, a crowded city, a battlefield, but no one recognized him. People saw someone familiar in him, yet could never remember who. One day he stood in a temple where priests prayed to a god whose name had almost vanished. The statue stood in the center, covered in dust. No one brought offerings anymore. Eilar approached it. He felt something faint, nearly gone, reaching out to him. It was the god himself. "Do you remember me?" came a barely audible voice. Eilar did not answer with words. He extended his hand, and a name appeared in his palm, the god's true name. He returned it. For a brief moment, the temple filled with light. Then everything fell silent again, because no one but Eilar spoke that name. The god disappeared. And Eilar understood. He could preserve, but he could not force others to remember. Much time passed before Lyra entered his library. This time it was different. Forgotten things usually appeared quietly, but Lyra seemed to arrive on her own. She stood among the shelves, confused, alive. "Where am I?" she asked. Eilar studied her. This was rare. The living did not come here. "You are forgotten," he said. "That's impossible." He handed her a book. She opened it and saw herself, her childhood, her parents, and then emptiness. Faces faded, names disappeared, people passed by her without noticing. "That's not true?" "It already is," Eilar replied softly. She fell to her knees, but she did not cry. Instead, she asked, "If no one remembers me, does that mean I will disappear?" "Yes." "And you collect people like me?" "I preserve what is lost." She was silent for a long time. Then she said, "Teach me." At first, Eilar did not understand why, but Lyra was persistent. She walked through the shelves, touched books, tried to read them. At first, it was chaos. She got lost in others' memories, confused emotions. But slowly, she learned, and she noticed something Eilar had not. "You only collect," she said one day, but you almost never return anything. People forget on their own, but sometimes they want to remember. That was new. Lyra began searching for those moments when someone stood on the edge of remembering, when a name hovered on their lips, when a feeling was close but slipping away, and then she would take the right book. Carefully, she returned a fragment, and something remarkable happened. The person remembered. Not everything, but enough. An old song, a friend's face, a promise. Eilar watched. He had never done this before. "This is dangerous," he said. "Why?" "It changes the course of stories." Lyra smiled. Stories always change. Over time, she became as much a part of the library as he was. But one day, she found a book that should not have existed. It stood at the center, black, sealed, without a title. "What is this?" she asked. Eilar knew immediately. "It is mine." "Why is it closed?" "Because I must not open it." "Why?" For the first time, he seemed uncertain. "If I remember who I was, I will stop being who I am now," Lyra thought. "And if you were someone important, then it no longer matters. And if you were happy?" Eilar said nothing. Time passed, but something had changed. Lyra began to understand something important. "I'm not disappearing, because you remember me." "Yes," Eilar said. "Then you can save anyone?" "No." "Why?" "Because I cannot remember everyone as I remember you." It was a subtle but crucial difference. So Lyra made a choice. She began to write, not just preserve, create new books about those still alive, about those who might be forgotten. She tried to outrun Oblivion. It was difficult, sometimes impossible, but sometimes it worked, and people remained in the world's memory just a little longer. A long time later, Lyra returned to the sealed book. "I still think you should open it," she said. Eilar looked at her. "Are you ready to lose me?" She hesitated. "I'm ready to know the truth." He reached toward the book, stopped, closed his eyes. "If I disappear, you will remain." "Yes." "Then you will become the keeper." She nodded. "I almost already am." He smiled faintly and withdrew his hand. "Then I do not need to open it." "Why?" "Because now I know the most important thing." "What?" "That my story is not the most important one." Lyra watched him for a long time, then said quietly, "But one day I will open it anyway." Eilar did not argue, because he knew every story must one day be told, even his, and they say that if you suddenly forget something important, a name, a feeling, a promise, do not be afraid. Perhaps it is not lost. Perhaps Eilar is simply holding it for you until you are ready to remember again.